All right, today we are jumping right into one of the most powerful and epic stories of liberation ever told. We're going to walk through the book of Exodus, chapters 11 through 15, to see the final dramatic showdown, the impossible escape, and what the real price of freedom looks like.
This quote right here, it really gets to the heart of our story. These words were spoken at a moment of just absolute, total desperation. It's a story defined by these overwhelming odds where faith isn't just a nice idea, it's an act of survival against a reality that seems completely impossible.
So, where do we pick up the story? Well, we start at the breaking point. Egypt has just been hammered by 9 catastrophic plagues, but its king, Pharaoh, is still defiant. This is it. This is the final warning.
Just try to imagine the scene. Egypt has endured darkness, hail, swarms of locusts, and terrible diseases. The entire nation is on its knees. And yet, Pharaoh absolutely refuses to let the Israelite slaves go. The Bible uses this really fascinating phrase, that his heart was hardened. And that's a complex idea. It suggests both his own incredible stubbornness and also a kind of divine judgment that was solidifying the choices he'd already made. The tension is just off the charts.
So Moses delivers this final prophecy directly from God, and its scope is just terrifying. At midnight, every single firstborn in every Egyptian household will die. This isn't random. It's a precise and devastating judgment. And the text makes a crucial point. God says not even a dog will bark at the Israelites, so that everyone will know that he himself has put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
And here's something really interesting that's happening. Moses has been transformed. He's no longer just some leader of a slave people. After everything they've witnessed, even Pharaoh's own court, his own servants, and the Egyptian people see him as a very great man. His authority, his power has become undeniable, even to his enemies.
So, with this terrible judgment looming, we get to our next big moment, a set of divine instructions for survival. And these instructions are going to become the absolute cornerstone of Israelite identity forever. This is the very first Passover.
And the instructions are, wow, super specific. A perfect lamb's blood is painted on the doorframe, acting as a sign for the destroyer to literally pass over that house and spare the people inside. The meal itself is packed with symbolism. Unleavened bread, because there's no time to wait for it to rise. You're leaving now. And bitter herbs to always remember the bitterness of slavery. Every little detail screams that this isn't just dinner, it's an escape plan in action.
And this timeline, it just shows you how fast this all goes down. It is absolute chaos. Midnight hits, the prophecy comes true, and a terrible cry echoes across all of Egypt. Then, in the middle of the night, a completely broken Pharaoh summons Moses. He doesn't just allow them to leave, he commands them to go. By sunrise, the Exodus is on, and the Egyptians themselves are pushing them out, yelling, "We are all dead men."
Now let's just pause on this number for a second. The text says about 600,000 men on foot. That doesn't even count women and children. We could be talking about millions of people. This massive nation is on the move, leaving 430 years of history behind them in a single day. The scale is just staggering to think about.
Okay, so they're free. But where do they go now? This kicks off the next part of our story, the journey into the wilderness. And here's the thing, they don't have a map. What they have is something much more miraculous. So, how do you make sure a night like that is never, ever forgotten? God gives them a new law. All firstborn Israelite males, both people and animals, are to be sanctified, which basically means set apart, as holy, special for God. It's a living memorial, a constant reminder that the first and the best of everything belongs to the one who rescued you. And right away, we see just how wise and compassionate God's guidance is. The quickest way to the Promised Land was through Philistine territory, which would have meant immediate war. God knew their spirit wasn't ready for that kind of fight yet, so instead, he leads them on a longer, safer route through the wilderness. And their guide on this journey? It's nothing short of spectacular. A pillar of cloud by day to lead the way and give them shade from the desert sun, and a pillar of fire by night to give them light and warmth. This isn't just some vague sign in the sky. It's the tangible, visible presence of God, leading them 24/7. Can you imagine seeing that?
But this divine guide leads them to the shores of the Red Sea, and to what seems like a dead end. This is where we hit the absolute climax of the story. Freedom seems so close, but it's all about to be snatched away.
Meanwhile, back in Egypt, the grief starts to wear off, and cold, hard economic reality sets in. Pharaoh and his officials realize, wait a minute,
We just let our entire slave labor force walk out the door. His heart hardens one last time, and he goes right back to his defiant self. He gathers his army, including 600 of his absolute best chariots, and he gives chase.
Just try to put yourself in their shoes. The sheer terror must have been overwhelming. You look behind you and you see the dust cloud from the most powerful army in the world racing towards you. You look ahead and there's an impassable sea. You are completely and utterly trapped. They just lose it, crying out to Moses, basically saying, "Did you bring us out here to die?"
And right there, in that moment of pure panic and chaos, Moses delivers one of the most incredible commands in the entire story. He tells them to stop, be quiet, and watch. I mean, that goes against every single human survival instinct, right? He's promising them that this battle, it isn't even theirs to fight.
And then, the miracle happens. First, that pillar of cloud moves between the two camps, becoming a divine barrier. Then, as Moses raises his staff, a powerful wind begins to blow, and it blows all night long, until a path of dry land cuts right through the middle of the sea. The people walk through between two literal walls of water. The Egyptians charge in after them, but God messes with their chariot wheels. And the second the last Israelite steps onto the far shore, Moses stretches out his hand again, and the walls of water just collapse, completely wiping out Pharaoh's entire army.
So now they're standing on the other side of the sea, safe, staring back at the water that just swallowed their enemies. What do you even do in a moment like that? All that fear, all that desperation, it just explodes out of them in our final act, a song of pure, unfiltered praise.
And this isn't just any song. This is the Song of the Sea, which many scholars believe is one of the oldest texts in the entire Bible. This isn't some calm, reflective hymn. It's raw, it's powerful, it's a spontaneous eruption of joy celebrating the impossible victory they just witnessed.
And the song itself really unpacks the meaning of what just happened. They sing about God as their strength and salvation. They call him a man of war, which to them meant he was their ultimate protector. But the song doesn't just look back at what he did, it also looks forward, predicting that news of this incredible act will spread and inspire fear in other nations, clearing the path for their future.
But the story doesn't end on that triumphant high note. You'd think after a miracle like that, their faith would be unshakable, right? Well, just 3 days later, they can't find any drinkable water, and they immediately start to grumble and complain. And it's such an immediate lesson. Being delivered from slavery doesn't mean the end of hardship. The journey of freedom is a journey of ongoing tests that require continuous trust.
So, from the final plague all the way to the shores of the Red Sea, this is a story about the heavy price of bondage and the incredible power of redemption. It's a narrative that is echoed for thousands of years, defining what it means to be rescued and led into a brand new life. And it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What are the armies and seas that stand in the way of our own freedom? And when we feel trapped, where do we place our trust?